Here's the laziest looking business in all of real estate. No tenants calling about a broken heater, no toilets to fix, no leasing office drama, just rows of metal boxes behind a chain link fence and a gate code. And it makes more profit per square foot than almost any apartment building you could name. But here's the part that actually explains why. The average storage unit holds less than $500 worth of stuff. The person renting it has often paid thousands of dollars over years to keep it there. That gap between what's inside the box and what somebody's actually paid to protect it is the whole business. If numbers like that catch you off guard, you're exactly who this channel is for. We take an asset everyone assumes they understand and show you the real math underneath it every time. So go ahead and subscribe now, because a storage facility is nowhere near as simple as rent out some boxes and wait. Let's start with the part that actually drives the profit, because it's not really storage, it's procrastination. Once somebody's stuff goes into a unit, it tends to just stay there. Moving it back out means a truck, a weekend, decisions about what to keep. And most people would rather keep paying $20 or $30 a month than deal with any of that. Operators know this. It's practically baked into how the business is run. The ideal customer isn't someone who needs short-term storage during a move. It's someone who forgets the unit exists and keeps paying for it anyway for years. That stickiness is exactly what makes the pricing model work. New customers get quoted a low rate to get them in the door. Existing customers, the ones already comfortably settled in with their boxes and furniture, get quietly raised every so often. 5% here, 8% there. Because the operator knows moving out is more of a hassle than just paying the increase. It's the same instinct that keeps people paying for a gym membership they haven't used in a year, applied to a chain link fence and a padlock. On top of the rent itself, there's a whole second layer of revenue almost nobody accounts for when they picture this business. Most facilities require tenants to carry insurance on whatever's inside the unit and conveniently sell that insurance themselves at a markup that can run close to pure profit. Late fees kick in fast. Administrative fees get tacked onto almost everything. None of this shows up in the sticker price advertised out front, and all of it adds up to a meaningfully fatter margin than the base rent alone would suggest. And then eventually, some tenants just stop paying entirely. This is where the whole business gets its pop culture moment, the auction. Most states allow facilities to place a lien on an abandoned unit after a certain number of missed payments and sell off the contents to recover what's owed. It makes for great television. In practice, it's a minor, occasional cleanup mechanism, not a real profit center. Most abandoned units aren't full of hidden treasure. They're full of exactly the kind of low-value stuff you'd expect somebody to eventually walk away from. Now, the cost side, because this is where the real advantage over almost every other kind of real estate shows up. A storage facility doesn't need granite countertops or hardwood floors or a location near good schools. It needs cheap land, usually on the edge of town or near an industrial corridor, and a simple steel structure that's relatively inexpensive to build compared to almost any residential property. No kitchens, no bathrooms in every unit, no moving cleaning between tenants. Operating margins on a mature, well-run facility routinely land north of 70%, a number that would be almost unheard of in apartment ownership, where maintenance, turnover, and staffing eat into profit constantly. But that low barrier to entry cuts both ways. And this is the part that trips up a lot of new owners. That because self-storage is relatively cheap and simple to build, it's also relatively easy to overbuild. A hot market can look wide open one year and be sitting at 15% vacancy 2 years later because 5 different developers all noticed the same opportunity and broke ground around the same time. Unlike an apartment building, where zoning and construction costs create a natural speed limit on new supply, storage facilities can flood a market fast enough to crater rents for everyone already operating there. And a brand new facility doesn't make real money on day one anyway. Lease up The process of actually filling a new building with paying tenants typically takes 2 to 4 years to reach a stabilized occupancy around 85 to 90%. During that stretch, the owner is often running at a loss or barely breaking even, covering debt payments on a building that's still half empty, betting that the slow trickle of new tenants eventually turns into that 70% margin machine. Plenty of operators underestimate exactly how long that runway is. There's also a quiet consolidation story happening in the background of this whole industry. A handful of large REITs, real estate investment trusts specializing in storage, have spent years buying up small, independently owned facilities across the country, and that buying pressure has pushed valuations up significantly. Cap rates on stabilized storage assets have compressed hard, which is a fancy way of saying the same dollar of income now costs a lot more to buy than it used to. The mom and pop operator who built a facility decades ago on cheap land is sitting on a fantastic return. The buyer paying today's price for that same cash flow is accepting a much thinner one, purely because so much institutional money is chasing the same asset class now. And here's a genuinely strange twist. The very thing that makes new supply so easy to build is also, in a lot of towns, exactly why it's getting harder to build. Storage facilities aren't exactly a beloved addition to a neighborhood. Nobody's excited about a chain link fence and a row of garage doors going up next to their subdivision, and local zoning boards increasingly push back against new self-storage permits for that reason. Which means, ironically, that the towns most resistant to approving new facilities are often the ones where existing operators enjoy the strongest pricing power, protected less by anything they built, and more by a neighborhood association that doesn't want to look at their competition. So when you add all of this up, a storage facility was never really in the business of storing things. The boxes and the padlocks are just the packaging. What it's actually selling is the path of least resistance. The fact that paying a small, easy monthly fee will always feel less painful than dealing with the stuff itself, for far longer than anyone plans on. Add in cheap land, thin operating costs, quiet price creep on tenants who never leave, and a regulatory environment that often blocks the exact competition that would otherwise show up. And you get one of the highest margin corners of real estate running almost entirely on inertia. If this breakdown was useful, go ahead and subscribe for more like it. Drop a like and let me know in the comments if you've got a storage unit you're still paying for and haven't opened in years. And if you know someone who'd get something out of this, send it their way.